Breaking news, not quite in batshit bonkers Britain, where it's Labour Party conference season. And West Streeting got on up there and told the crowds of determined supporters that he misses Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister. Yes, he misses the ginger growler and must be the first man in human history to miss a ginger growler, or indeed something like genital herpes that he's only just about managed to get rid of, but now he wants them back. Rachel Reeves stood up there, ceramic bobhead hair by Lego, and spoke through her nose for the entire time, telling the nation how brilliantly Britain is doing and how she's going to encourage growth by taxing the small number of business holders so hard that they choose to go to the public sector, which of course is what Labour wants, because the more people you have in the public sector, the more easy they are to control. Truly, I wonder what would happen if I spoke through my nose. It'd be like a folk horn, wouldn't it, darlings? And finally, Emma Watson, the posh princess. She poured petrol on J.K. Rowling for standing true with real women. And now that the tides have turned, now the world is doing a 180 on the trans nonsense, she's trying to row that back. Well, here's the thing, Emma, my little posh princess, we see you. We see you holding that gas canister that you poured over JK, and you need to own that, my love. She made you. No one would know who you were if it wasn't for JK Rowling, and that doesn't really matter. But the woman has been an absolute legend, and you tried to bring her down. And finally, just as an aside, because it is my want, you do remind me of a terrapin. You know those little tiny things that have their own shell and just come up to poke their head above water once in a while with little tiny features. Like, I've never seen your face. It's been very interesting because everything's just so tiny on it. But you are that terrapin. You poke your head up, say something you think is fashionable, and then into your shell. That's it, my darlings. Batshit bonkers Britain.
Katie Hopkins has returned to the headlines with a clip that is as biting as it is revealing. Beneath the flamboyant insults and provocative asides lies a sharp critique of Britain's political and cultural climate, one that merits a closer look. Hopkins began by targeting Labour's Rachel Reeves, caricaturing her delivery and accusing her of promoting policies that would tax business owners into the public sector, framing it as part of a broader Labour strategy to grow state dependence. This barb reflects a familiar conservative critique of Labour's fiscal policy, that higher taxation risks discouraging private enterprise. The jibe may have been personal, but the underlying accusation speaks to a real fault line in British politics, the tension between growth-driven capitalism and state-led redistribution. From there, Hopkins pivoted to Emma Watson, castigating the actress for once criticizing J.K. Rowling over transgender issues, but now, in Hopkins' words, rowing back as the cultural tide shifts. Hopkins framed Watson's change of tone as opportunism, casting her as a symbol of celebrity fickleness. The accusation, though laced with mockery, taps into a larger debate over accountability and the costs of taking sides in Britain's ongoing culture wars. Such commentary is, of course, classic Hopkins, caustic, theatrical, often bordering on the outrageous. But it also reflects the growing polarization in the UK, where personalities, not just policies, dominate the political conversation. By weaving personal attacks into her political critique, Hopkins underscores the blurring of entertainment and politics in Britain's media sphere. As the country navigates a post-Brexit economic reset and Labour attempts to redefine itself in government, the reaction to voices like Hopkins will be a barometer of how much room remains for blunt, controversial dissent in public discourse.
Well, see, what really has happened is the government, as the previous government, actually invested millions of pounds into Elmbridge, and these houses, they're being used temporarily for people being resettled, as I said, British citizens, those that have helped the British Army, and then once they're stopped being used for that, the council keeps them, and they'll be available for local residents for social housing and affordable housing.
So the refurbishment, purchase and letting of 24 homes has cost £10.25 million.
The average house price in Elmbridge is £800,000.
Exactly, and there we go. There's loads of people who want to live in Elmbridge, aren't there? Yeah. It's a stockbroker belt in Surrey.
Yeah, exactly.
It's lovely.
And these houses,
right. So
now,
why are some? But can you not see what some people are getting at here, which is that for a lot of people who work very hard and pay a lot of tax and abide by the law and do everything absolutely above board, they can't afford to live there. But a council, or whether it's government or not, has found £10.25 million so that people who have just arrived in Britain, in some cases, people who just arrived in Britain, can go and live on the stockbroker belt in Surrey.
Yeah, so the government gave them that money to pay for the resettlement. So they stopped the local taxpayers actually having to pay for it. So this was government money. And as I said, those houses, and I've checked this and I push really hard, those houses, once they no longer used for resettlement, will be available for local people for affordable housing. But as I said, like, this is a bit of a red herring. This is money that was given to a council for a very specific crisis many, many years ago.
But where does that money come from?
From the government.
Yeah, which is ours, isn't it? It's our money, isn't it? This is the point, again.
Do you think that we shouldn't give houses to British citizens and those that help the British Army?
Firstly on that, I think there's two things. It depends by what you mean by a British citizen, OK? So if it's someone who was, like, born over here, who just found themselves, for whatever reason, just living in Afghanistan for a bit and needs to come out, like, fine, OK, fair enough. If what a lot of people are now doing when they're describing people as British citizens, it's people who we have just been given, say, indefinite leave to remain or a British passport, I don't think that they should be housed before people who were born in this country, who've paid tax in this country all their lives, who are what I would say are frankly, yes, more of a British citizen, because it's not just a passport that makes you British, is it really? In reality. So that's where I would be out on that.
But these 20, the 20 that we're talking about here, and that's the number we're talking about, right? It's a temporary resettlement, and then those houses will be available for local residents. But as I say, like, you know, this is a bit of a red herring. The real scandal is asylum seekers being kept in hotels that cost £1 billion a year. Right, that should have ended, and the previous government had a plan that would have actually ended that entirely. Yeah. This government has let it increase.
Absolutely.
So that's the real scandal.
Look, absolutely. I just wish that there was the urgency to, you know, spend £10.25 million, give that to Elmbridge Council to go and help house homeless veterans, or to go and help single mums, or something like that. I just wish we had the same level of priorities.
These are veterans. These are veterans in the sense that they are people that have helped the British Army. So
fine, absolutely, yeah. But so some of them will be, but yes, OK, all right. Look, thank you very much. Anyway, cheers for your time. It's John Cope there, who's the Conservative group leader of Elmbridge Borough Council. An Elmbridge Borough Council spokesperson has said Elmbridge Borough Council has supported refugees from Syria, Afghanistan and Ukraine over the years. Working with local partners, we've offered safety and support to those fleeing conflict and fear. We've always been open and transparent about this support. Please note that the programme is also supporting councils to acquire temporary accommodation to help address wider homelessness pressures too. What I just don't quite get about that is why they would say we're supporting refugees from Syria, Afghanistan and Ukraine. I'd be very wary when someone goes on and says, well, they're British citizens. Well, how have they become British citizens? Were they born here, or did we give them that passport? Anyway,